Oh, honey, you're not gonna believe what went down in my neighborhood. This ain't just some story. This is a saga, a whole darn soap opera with manicured lawns and passive-aggressive potlucks. And it all started with a single innocent little lemon tree. Now, before you go thinking this is some silly citrus feud, let me set the scene. I live in a cookie-cutter cul-de-sac called Oak Creek Estates, the kind of place where every house is a shade of beige, the lawns are perpetually green, and the HOA, the dreaded Homeowners Association, is more powerful than the county sheriff. And the queen bee of this whole operation? Mrs. Helen Pinter, a woman whose smile could curdle milk and whose eyes miss absolutely nothing. My neighbor, a sweet old lady named Carol, had this tiny, pathetic-looking lemon tree in her front yard. It was maybe 3 feet tall, and it hadn't produced a single lemon in the 2 years she'd had it. It was more of a decorative shrub, really, but it was her shrub, and she loved it. One Saturday morning, I see Helen Pinter marching up Carol's driveway, holding a clipboard like it's a scepter of judgment. I watched from my kitchen window as Helen pointed a perfectly manicured finger at the sad little tree. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I could practically feel the condescension radiating from her. Carol looked defeated, her shoulders slumping. A few minutes later, Helen stomped off, and Carol came over to my house, looking like she'd just lost her best friend. "She says it's an unapproved species," Carol whispered, her voice trembling. Apparently, the bylaws state that all front yard flora must be indigenous to the Oak Creek Valley and serve a primarily ornamental purpose. She says my lemon tree is a frivolous, non-native fruit tree and a potential nuisance to the local ecosystem. She gave me a 7-day notice to remove it or face a $200 fine. I was floored. A lemon tree? Seriously? This was so Helen. She'd weaponized the rule book to exert her power. Carol had lived in that house for 30 years, since before the HOA was even a twinkle in some developer's eye. She was harmless. This wasn't about the tree, this was about control. Well, that notice was the spark that lit the fuse. The neighborhood grapevine lit up like a Christmas tree. Everyone had a story about Helen, the time she fined the Millers for having a bluebird house instead of a neutral-toned wren box, the time she reported the Johnsons for having a Halloween inflatable that was excessively large and visually disruptive. It was all so petty, but it added up to a mountain of resentment. That evening, a few of us gathered at my place. It was me, Carol, and a couple of other neighbors who had their own grievances. We were like a little rebel alliance against the HOA's galactic empire. And then a young guy, Alex, who'd just moved in, piped up. "Wait a second," he said, scrolling on his phone. "My real estate agent gave me all the bylaws. She said I should read them carefully, and I remember seeing something about this." He tapped his screen. "Here it is. Section 9.2, Article D. All front yard plantings must be maintained in a manner that contributes to the overall aesthetic harmony of the community, including regular watering, pruning, and fertilization, to ensure a healthy appearance." "So?" I said. "That doesn't help." "Just listen," Alex said, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. "The article ends with a provision. Should a plant prove to be a recurring source of aesthetic disharmony, it may be subject to removal after a full and documented 3-month period of community-wide observation and a majority vote of the HOA committee." My jaw dropped. 3 months? A majority vote? Alex nodded. "Yeah, it's a fail-safe. It's to stop the HOA from making snap judgments. But here's the kicker." He scrolled down a bit more. Article F. The planting of any species of tree that has been approved for a neighborhood-wide beautification project shall be exempt from the provisions of Section 9.2, Article D. "What's a beautification project?" Carol asked, her eyes wide with hope. "I have no idea," Alex shrugged. "But it's in the bylaws." That's when I had my genius moment. "So what if we make it a beautification project?" I said, a smile slowly spreading across my face. We hatched a plan. It was simple, devious, and perfectly legal. The next day, I started a neighborhood petition, not just for Carol's lemon tree, but for a neighborhood citrus beautification project. We'd plant non-native, aesthetically pleasing, and culturally significant citrus trees in the front yards of anyone who wanted one. We made a list of 10 neighbors who were willing, including Carol. And we all signed a single laminated petition with a list of all the bylaws we were citing. The next HOA meeting was a battlefield. Helen Pinter sat at the head of the table, her face a mask of smug authority. I stood up, cleared my throat, and presented our petition. Mrs. Pinter, we'd like to formally propose a neighborhood citrus beautification project citing Article F of Section 9.2. She looked at the document, and I swear I saw a muscle in her jaw twitch. "This is preposterous," she hissed. "You can't just create a project to circumvent the bylaws." "Actually," I said, a little more confident now, "we believe the bylaws are in place to serve the community, not the other way around. And we have a majority of the neighborhood supporting this project." She looked at our list of names, and her face went from smug to pale. One of the names on the list was a developer who had a history with the HOA. He was the one who had written a lot of the bylaws. "This is an unapproved proposal," Helen stammered, her voice losing its edge. "It's a project," I said calmly, "and according to Article F, it makes all the included trees exempt from your decision. We've got the votes. You can either approve the project or face a community-wide revolt. The choice is yours." Helen Pinter was defeated. She tried to argue to find a loophole, but she couldn't. The rules were the rules, and we had used them against her. She finally, begrudgingly, approved the project. 2 weeks later, Carol's pitiful little lemon tree was flourishing. We all pitched in to fertilize it, and a bunch of us, including the new young couple down the street, planted our own little citrus trees. It wasn't about the fruit. It was about the freedom. It was about showing that a community, when it stands together, is more powerful than one person with a clipboard and a thirst for control. And from that day on, every time I saw Mrs. Pinter, I'd give her a big wave and a smile, and I'd think to myself, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, isn't it? Full of beautiful non-native trees."